Hi, everybody, and welcome to our special video series about the celebration of color winners 2022. I'm Bob Ruggiero, Vice President of Communications for Quilts Incorporated and International Quilt Festival. And today's guest, we have our first place in the art category. It was a $500 prize sponsored by Luana Rubin of equilter.com. And the winner here is Clamshell Surprise, which you can see behind me. It measures 63 inches by 77 inches by Ellen Hassold of Normandy, Texas. It was machine pieced, and the design source was the clamshells pattern by Judy Niemeyer. Here's Llewellyn's artist statement. Llewellyn says, I wanted a vivid, interesting look for my version of Judy Niemeyer's clamshells. The quilt was made from a variety of Cape facet scraps paired with Moda Grunge fabrics. I was pleasantly surprised by the results, as the quilt was even brighter than I imagined. It almost seemed to glow as if lit from behind, as you can see. Valerie Wagner's quilting design adds a lovely texture. Well, so I'd like to welcome and congratulations, Llewellyn.
Thank you.
So tell me a bit about, obviously, the exhibit is a celebration of color. So tell me a little bit about what color means to your work and how it's developed over the years.
Color is probably my primary motivation when I work on a quilt. I'm not a pattern designer or an artist. I don't create my own designs. I follow patterns. But finding new ways to add color to existing patterns and designs and combining different colors, that's really what motivates me as a quilter. I love bright colors and happy colors.
And when you're looking for colorful fabric, do you have a particular way that you shop or look for fabrics, or do you go in looking for a particular hue and then try and find that?
I love working with batiks, so I have a pretty good stash of bright colored batiks in a lot of colors. I do the pick a focus fabric and work from that sometimes, where I combine colors based on what's in that fabric. Sometimes that fabric itself falls out of the quilt, but I've combined colors based on that. And then just what looks good to me or makes me happy. I don't have a lot of training in working with color. I just kind of, like combining the patterns and prints in the quilt behind you. Just something that, I guess, if it makes it more vibrant, if you put two fabrics together and they look more vibrant or more luminous, then that's kind of what I look for when I combine fabrics.
Sure. Now, obviously, this quilt is based on Judy Niemeyer's pattern. So tell me a little bit about how you found the pattern and then what made you decide to make the quilt from it.
I love paper piecing. I do a lot of work with Judy Niemeyer patterns and a lot with Jacqueline Dijon patterns and some others. So this pattern appealed to me. I liked the design, but most of the times I had seen it made, it was in very traditional fabrics, a lot of light backgrounds and very little print, just, a few accent colors in the arches of the clamshells. So I thought, what would happen if, and I love working with black because it highlights my colors. So I thought, what would happen if we change this up a little bit? And I have a pretty good collection of K facet scraps, and they really appeal to me. And in this quilt, I kind of went through those scraps and started pairing them with other fabrics. And the Moda Grunge line had just become very popular at that time. And they really work well, because they usually have different colors in them, and they sort of pull from a fabric that you put beside them. So using those scraps and adding the motifs for accents and the black in the background, that's kind of how the quilt evolved. So.
Then, as far as putting it together, any particular memorable or funny stories about the construction of it?
Not specifically, except that I took it to a retreat to work on with a lot of my quilting friends. And there's now probably 6 or 7 versions of it because everyone liked it. And they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So I have 6 or 7 friends who've now done the same thing, made the same version of the quilt with the K-Fab bright colors in it. So that's kind of my funny story for this quilt.
That's great. Well, Llewellyn, go ahead and tell me what you're working on now.
I'm kind of between projects. My guild just finished a show and I had finished up several things for that, and then we took a vacation. So I haven't started something new, but I'm sure it'll be paper piecing. The quilt you see behind me is one that I just finished for that show, and I've put it back on the design wall because I think I'm going to add some crystals to it before I take it out again. But it's called Jewel, and it's a tribute to my grandmother, whose name was Jewel. I'm a fourth generation quilter, and my grandmother was a very prolific quilter, and she loved bright colors. She did a lot of her work in the 1970s and 80s. And at that time, earth tones and calicos were popular. Not for my grandmother. She used bright things, especially red. So when I saw a pattern named Jewel, I made that quilt as a tribute to her, and it's made with a lot of batik scraps. So that's kind of my most recent completion. So,
That's great. Well, it's a wonderful project. Well,
thank you.
Llewellyn, thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us. And again, congratulations on your win in this year's
Thank you.
Celebration of Color Judge Show.
Thank you so much.